By now, everyone knows that, of course, the last word is getting a nerf, but I wanted to take the time to talk about a sidearm that's incredibly powerful. It's been so strong for so long, but especially since getting random rules on it through the menagerie, it truly is a top contender. And I don't think many people have considered this, but I really believe that this weapon rivals that of the last word in terms of strength. The sidearm we're talking about today is none other than the Drang. Of course, everyone knows that the Drang is a pairing to the Sturm. Of course, they go together. But this weapon, as a standalone weapon, is incredibly strong, as I mentioned. It has incredible stats, a really great perk pool, and it has some traits that you might not have noticed that give it a really massive competitive edge. I do also think that Drang is the best sidearm in the game, and if I'm going to be using a sidearm, it's most likely going to be Drang. Let's start by talking about time to kill. So I think Drang's archetype, the adaptive sidearms, have what I think is the best time to kill overall. They kill in 0.6 seconds with 4 crits, or 3 crit 1 body against 2 resilience, and 1 second to the body, taking 6 body shots. They also have a good middle ground time to kill, taking only 2 crit and 3 body to get you that 0.8 second time to kill, which is very good. And taking only 2 crits, that makes it very achievable on a regular basis. Compared to other sidearms, sure, they might have a slightly faster time to kill in some cases, like the adaptive burst sidearms, but they have steeper requirements, like having to land 2 complete bursts of headshots, so 6 crits, that is 2 complete bursts of headshots, and if you don't, they do have a much worse body shot time to kill by about 0.10 seconds. We do also have some cases where other weapons have a better body shot time to kill, like the precisions, but they have a worse optimal time to kill, and as much as that optimal time to kill is relatively achievable with 2 crit 2 body, they have a slower rate of fire that I find a little bit uncomfortable on a sidearm that ends up being a little bit more punishing. Again, the adaptive sidearms have the best middle ground of a great optimal time to kill that's pretty achievable, a good average time to kill that you can hit that 0.8 very regularly, a good body time to kill, and of course Drang has a lot of inherent bonuses like its stats and range capabilities, which we'll talk about in a moment. I do also feel that this archetype's time to kill feels very similar to that of the last word. The last word has a 0.53 optimal time to kill and a 0.8 base time to kill. Of course Drang is very close to that with its optimal 0.6 seconds, and its base is a little bit higher at 1 second, but again, that 0.8 seconds that you're usually hitting with the last word is very achievable, like I mentioned many times, with 2 crit 3 body on Drang, so the time to kill on the two weapons is going to feel very similar. Drang actually performs incredibly well at range compared to most sidearms, and is actually really similar to the last word in terms of its range performance. Drang starts to get damage fall off at about 19 meters, which again is incredibly comparable to that of the last word, which gets damage fall off at around 20 meters, both of them while in aim down sights. Compared to other top sidearm offerings like our exotics, which also share the same archetype as Drang, the 300 RPM adaptives, we have Devil's Ruin that gets damage fall off after 16 meters, and Rat King, which begins to get damage fall off after 13 meters. Drang clearly outperforms the exotic sidearms in terms of its range potential, and as I mentioned, is more in line with that of the last word's range potential. And yes, this is partially because of its range stat. I have a max range Drang, so this is the best it gets. But there's another factor that is very important here, and that's the zoom level. Drang actually shares the same zoom as a hand cannon while being a sidearm. This gives it an inherent built-in rangefinder style effect that is giving you a lot more range, and obviously is very, again, comparable to that of the last word. Now, I do have to mention, I don't entirely know if other sidearms with rangefinder immediately go to the same zoom level as Drang. I don't have a sidearm with rangefinder, unfortunately. However, either way, this is a built-in rangefinder that does not take up one of your perk slots, which obviously means you can go for another perk instead of that while still getting all those benefits, which is just incredible. To quickly recap for our small comparison here, we now have a weapon, a sidearm, that has a similar feeling time to kill to the last word, and now a similar range capability to that of the last word. Now let's talk about perks. Drang has some really great high range and high stability bonuses. My role personally uses full bore, ricochet rounds, and a range masterwork, which gives it its maximum or top range. It has 68 range and 64 stability with that combination of perks, which is really good for a sidearm. Full auto is my favorite slot 1 perk on Drang. I think there are some other perk options that you could argue are pretty decent, but I think full auto is by far the best. And that's because it eliminates the need to repeatedly have to tap the trigger, and you get to just focus purely on your tracking on the target and landing your shots. And this again gives it that similar kind of vibe or feeling to that of the Last Word, or maybe even in some way an SMG. Of course, because Last Word has that full auto ability. Where Drang separates itself from something like Last Word though, as much as it doesn't have that individual damage per shot, of course, it still does have some lethality buffs available in its second perk slot, things like Rampage or Swashbuckler. And if you don't happen to get that, like I didn't unfortunately, there's Zen Moment, which again increases your stability over the time in gunfights, which allows you to in turn land more shots regularly. And based on what we've learned about stability, if Zen Moment does impact this, which I assume it would, stability or higher stability maintains your aim assist better, so it does not degrade over time, which is beneficial. In contrast with the Last Word, Drang also has pretty high stability. If you're not totally used to the recoil of the Last Word, or perhaps hip firing, which I guess with the new update you should probably get used to if you plan on using it, but if you want something that feels very similar to what will later be the pre-patch Last Word, which is our current Last Word, that you can ADS with, feel consistent with, have high lethality and high or decent range potential for a closer range weapon, then Drang is the way to go for you, because again it has higher stability, it has the full auto, it has a similar range capability, which again after this patch it will be worse on the Last Word, so Drang could be better at range than the Last Word. And lastly, of course, a similar feeling time to kill. I do think that Drang is the legendary version or counterpart to the Last Word. I've been running it with snipes, I've been running it with even Chaperone for a Last Word slugshotty style effect, and I think it's actually pretty good and slept on as an individual weapon even if you're not using Sturm. So especially before the season ends and the next weapon balancing comes through, I recommend that you go back and hit up the menagerie and try and farm yourself a Drang, as this might be a top contender post update with the Last Word getting a nerf. We'll have to wait and see, but I'd suggest getting your hands on a good one. So that's everything I got for you guys on Drang. If you guys like the video and want to see more content like this, check me out on Twitch. Link is in the description. I stream pretty frequently, so I hope to see you guys there. If not, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.